We made this.
Welcome to the Starlight Ballroom. Hey!
Hello everybody and welcome to Shipwrecked and Comatose, the Red Dwarf podcast right here on the We Made This podcast network. I am your host, I am Carl Bryan, and I am joined today by my two fellow adventurers as we dive into Tomb Raider 2, Lara Croft, the Cradle of Life. So first off, I am joined by one of my regular companions, Mr. Mark Adams. How are you doing today, Mark?
Hello, I'm good, and I'm delighted that you're in charge because I was so pish last time.
You got distracted. It's fine. It happens to all of us.
It was a giant phallus.
Yes, it was. And also, returning for this episode is the host of We Are Starfleet, as well as the leader of Kneel Before blog, Craig McKenzie. How you doing, Craig?
Hello, I'm doing good. I'm ready to talk more Tomb Raider.
Excellent stuff. So we are talking about, 2003's Lara Croft Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life, directed by Jan de Bont, who directed...
Sorry, by who?
Jan de Bont.
Jan de Bont. That sounds like... I don't know what it sounds like, but I liked it.
Yeah.
And right, the title of this film, The Cradle of Life, I keep calling it The Cradle of Filth. So if I do call it The Cradle of Filth during this, I mean, don't correct me, everyone knows what I mean. But
absolutely.
And if I apologised, I wouldn't mean it. But, you know, Cradle of Filth, they're a band.
They are certainly a band, yes.
I should have confused everyone by putting them on the soundtrack.
That would have been good.
Well, we will come to the soundtrack at some point during this, I believe. So directed by Jan de Bont, who directed Speed and Speed 2, Cruise Control, and this was actually also the last thing he directed.
Really? The guy who directed Speed hasn't directed anything since 2003?
No, he took a very long break, and he's been a cinematographer ever since.
Good grief.
So released in July 2003 on a budget of $95 million. It made $160.1 million back at the box office, which, when you take into marketing and all that, is considered a bit of a flop.
Not enough of a flop to not want a third film, though.
Well, it was enough of the flop for Angelina Jolie to say she doesn't want to do a third one.
Yeah, and that's why they didn't do the third one, isn't it? That there is no Tomb Raider without Angelina Jolie in this period.
But as I say, we'll get into the film because as I say there's a lot to unpack here.
Is there?
There's a fair bit, I think.
There isn't a giant phallus, though.
There isn't a giant phallus, but there is quite a bit going on, and quite a few odd Red Dwarf connections in there somewhere.
Beyond Chris Barrie.
Beyond Chris Barrie, absolutely.
Gosh.
Yep, done my notes, done my research.
I watched a film.
Yeah.
That is the bare minimum of you were expected to do, so well done.
Well, what was your first impressions of the film after watching it? Craig, we'll ask you first. What was your first thing after seeing this one?
I think it's fairly in line with the first one, to be honest. I quite liked it. It doesn't occupy a lot of space in my brain. Inside baseball is we've had this recording rescheduled a couple of times, and haven't watched it since I watched it for the first recording, and I've forgotten quite a lot of it. But I think that would be true of the first one as well. If I hadn't seen it recently, it would be forgettable in some ways. So yeah, I think this is about as good as the first one. It's fine. It's a decent enough action movie.
Yeah. Mark?
I think it's very similar to the first one. You know, it's lots and lots of cool set pieces and stunts and almost a plot written around it. It's kind of sticking to type and to brand, and Angelina Jolie is fit as fuck. What's not to like if you like stunts and explosions and Angelina Jolie's boobs?
Well,
I mean, I like two of those three things. And I don't dislike the third.
What happened to action hero Angelina Jolie? It seemed like she could have done a lot more of that, but pretty much after this, I think, she didn't really do much more. Mr. and Mrs. Smith
Yeah, sort of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She did that one called Salt as well, which I think had a bit of action in it. But no, after this, she kind of went the other way, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. Well, let's get started because, as I say, we do have a bit to unpack here. So we begin in Greece at a wedding at what looks like a lovely location. It has to be said, on top of a mountain. The bride and groom appear to have finished their first dance, backed by a traditional Greek band, and then one of the guests asks for the DJ to put on Kasabian, which feels a little bit hard for a wedding, but people seem to be enjoying it. Mark, you're a celebrant. You do quite a few weddings. Much Kasabian going on?
People tend to have what they want at their own weddings. I remember one of the couples had the theme tune for Jurassic Park for the bride to come down the aisle because they both like Jurassic Park, and I was delighted for them. Na, 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 na. It was great. I loved it. I had a doggy ring bearer. What else have I had? I've had an owl ring bearer that failed. I've had lots of fun stuff. This didn't seem incongruous to me, I don't think. And good for them if they like Kasabian. Have it at your wedding. I'd quite like some Rammstein at my wedding.
Well, obviously, take care, Mark, because the pounding rhythms of Serge and the boys seem to be the trigger for what causes a massive earthquake.
It's true.
This is why you ease in with like a Greatest Day by Take That or something like that.
That's a bit of a difference.
Also, quite a few years too early for that.
True. Well, you don't go straight into Come On Eileen. You ease it in before that kicks off. The destruction leads to the title sequence, and we never see what happens to the wedding party. Presumably, they're all dead. There's a few times in this where there's characters are like, oh, we don't know what happened to them then, for a lot of this film, which is something that will come through. So after we have the credit sequence, we see a group of sailboats are diving and what looks like hunting for something. They're interrupted by three people on jet skis, but it's the middle one who splashes them and then does a completely unnecessary flip. It is, of course, our hero, Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
Unnecessary, but fucking cool. And the plat really, really emphasised how cool it was. I wrote down cool plat in my notes.
I mean, it's a way to go. It's also a bit dickish of a splash her colleagues. The first of what we find is Lara Croft's seemingly unlimited amount of friends around the world that she gets to do favours for in this film.
I mean, when you're that cool and that hot and that well-travelled, I can buy that.
But the video game version of Lara is evil. She steals from other people. She kills a lot of people. So it's difficult to buy that people would want to be around her.
You behave really quite colonially in the games then?
Kind of. You spend most of the games, certainly the PlayStation era games, by yourself, raiding tombs, funnily enough, solving puzzles and stuff like that. But you usually come across enemies of some sort. And it's not quite clear that their motivation is any more or less evil than Lara's is, really. They're both looking for the same thing, and Lara's quite happy to just mow down tons of goons to get it.
I'm kind of glad they gave us some morals, really.
Yeah. So, we meet her colleagues, which is Gus, who owns the boat, and his sons, Jimmy and Nicholas. She pulls herself out of the boat twice in an editing mistake I noticed in the film.
I noticed that. I remember that.
Brilliant.
And then she remarks that the boys are all wet. So you kind of see why some of these guys do want to work with Lara, because she makes doughy eyes and flirts with everybody.
Good for her.
It works. You get the feeling that Gus has known her a long time. You get the feeling that a lot of these people that she runs into have known her a long time, which maybe they'll explore all this in the Amazon series when that comes out, just how she builds up this network of people.
I think it's just she gets around. It's the same with Indiana Jones, though, isn't it? He goes somewhere and he'll run into an old friend who'll be able to help him do something. So
True.
I think it just comes with the territory of these things. It gets you from A to B very quickly. How are we going to get to this thing? It's, don't worry, I'll get this far, and then I know someone there already.
She didn't know the shark that she punched.
We'll get to that in a second. She explains to Gus and the boys that a temple built by Alexander the Great, where he kept his most prized treasures, called the Lunar Temple, has been unearthed by this earthquake. No one was ever allowed to mark where it was, and in 330 BC it was swallowed by a huge volcanic eruption, and no one ever saw it again until somebody at a wedding asked to play Kasabian.
No one had ever done that in that specific location before that day.
The way you phrase it.
I do remember Kasabian saying on one of their albums that they'd done research into like a certain rhythm that is what's, I think it was like deemed like the best rhythm to do a song to, and little did they know that possibly that rhythm also causes earthquakes that unleash hidden temples.
How good was the sound system?
At this point, you'd have thought that they would know that the rhythm is going to get you. Dun, 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 dun. I'm in a really silly mood and I don't know why.
That's good, man. Lara, however, has deduced everybody else is looking in the wrong place, and the temple is actually about 5 miles to the left of where everybody else is, which I put, presumably they're going to notice when Lara and her team start diving 5 miles to the left.
Or even that just Lara's not there, because surely they would know that she's not stupid, and the fact that she's not there suggests that they're not in the right place.
Yeah, exactly. But they've got this head start, so they head off. Lara changes into a wetsuit, which could be described as a bit body-hugging, even for a wetsuit.
Might as well just be paint. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently in this film, whereas in the first film they padded her tops to make her a bit more like the game, in this one they didn't have any padding at all, because Angelina Jolie wanted her to look more human-like, or more realistic dimensions. In this one. But I think you'd notice padding in this outfit, to be fair.
And really, she's pretty Lara Crofty without extra Lara Croftiness.
Yeah.
I think people would not be bothered about it as well, because you will know that humans aren't possible to be in those proportions. I mean, Barbie, for example, Margot Robbie does not have the proportions of the doll, because no one does, because a real woman would break her spine if she did. So, yeah, people are fine with that. Yeah, humans aren't like that. It would just be some weird CGI-enhanced anime type nonsense.
We'll get you a wetsuit like that, Mark, for next time you go out on a gig.
I don't need one.
Oh, you already got one?
Oh, that's not what I meant.
Her colleague Gus muses that maybe this temple is not meant to be found. Lara reassures him, and then we get one of my favourite vehicles in the entire film, scuba bikes.
Yeah.
Love it.
My favourite vehicle in the entire film was a punched shark.
Well, I'll say we're just coming up to this now. So they find the temple remarkably easily, with only a shark that just passes them by on the way in.
Foreshadowing.
Exactly.
Or foresharkowing, I guess you could call it.
Wow. You could call it that, I'm not going to.
I just did, so heard it here first.
Jimmy and Nikki start packing treasures away while Lara finds a statue of Alexander the Great that to me looked oddly like a redressed Abraham Lincoln statue from the previous year's Planet of the Apes.
I liked that temple, though. It was really well designed. It was a really cool set for somewhere they only spent like 5 minutes in.
Yeah, you'll see this as we go on in the film. The locations are fantastic.
And we did talk about that in the last episode, didn't we? That the locations are something that are really, really fantastic about this film. And we are coming towards the tail end of that really being a thing instead of green screen.
Yeah, it feels like they were in the locations for a bit longer in the first one. Maybe they weren't, but it felt like they were used a bit better. Whereas this one, there's a short sequence and then they're out.
I think there must have been more money involved this time around, because the first one I think did do quite well. Must have done well enough to warrant this film. So, or maybe they went to other countries where it might have been cheaper to do these bigger set pieces.
Yeah, there was probably a budget increase. Angelina Jolie's salary would have certainly been more by this point.
Definitely. Lara climbs up the statue and prizes a medallion from the chest plate, and the room begins to fill with a golden light. However, while everyone is looking this way, the baddie divers arrive, and we can tell they're baddies because they have much more industrial-looking scuba gear than the others do.
Legit.
The thing that bugs me about it is we've had more instances of Lara knowing information that we don't see her actually ever figure out. So when she arrives and says, they're all looking the wrong place, I know the right place. How do you know the right place? Don't know, you just do. And then she instantly knows to go for the statue and what to take off the statue as well. Whereas if they wanted to do a bit more video game referencing, she could have spent a bit of time just puzzling it out, solved a puzzle of some sort. They could have done that quite cinematically somehow.
She could have failed to climb up a ledge. That's one of my main memories of playing Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
She could have excessively jumped and jumped and jumped, and you could have looked at her bottom.
yeah, or do the random handstand that serves no actual function within the game, but you can do.
Yep. Lara starts to climb where the light is coming from, revealing a golden orb of some kind. While she's looking at it, an aftershock begins to destroy the temple, with Jimmy and Nikki shouting that it's time to go. I noticed here that in one backpack, Lara's got a camcorder and some welding gear, and it all works absolutely fine.
We are being really scathing about this film, but I quite liked it.
I enjoyed it, but I am picking it to shreds a bit.
It is tat, but it was great fun.
You'll notice the distinct line between where I first started the first session of me writing my notes and the second session of me writing my notes. I'm a bit nicer about it as we go on. There's now 4 baddies that sneak up on Jimmy and Nikki and kill them. I was quite sad to see them go. I thought they might have made it.
Yeah, they had a scene. What a shame.
Yeah. All I remember is one of them is the guy that was in Lock, Stock, the TV series.
There was a TV series of Lock, Stock.
Yeah, only one series, but each one was like an hour and a half long.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually on YouTube on a properly licensed channel. It's quite good fun.
Huh.
Yeah. One of them somehow manages to alert Lara while his throat's being slit, but it's too late, which just made me laugh from an editing perspective. Lara gets shot in the leg and she drops the orb. She takes out one of the baddies and starts a rock collapse that takes out another one. This was a pretty bloody good sort of rock temple falling in. I thought it was straight out of like an Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, they used the location well, albeit briefly.
But the main baddies have taken the orb and escaped on the scuba bikes, not before shooting Lara's scuba bike tank because they're dicks.
And smart, to be fair. That's good strategy.
I think smart.
Lara escapes the temple but is far from the surface and has no oxygen, although she is bleeding from a wound on her arm. The wound, however, brings back the shark that we saw earlier.
Apparently the bends isn't a thing.
Yeah.
Not something she has to deal with.
Yeah. That CGI shark isn't great.
No, there's a few moments of CGI in this that are a bit...
2003, remember, though. CGI was... Well, in terms of being used in this way, it was relatively in its infancy. And, to be fair, you could go and see a film that was made last year and get about the same level of visual effects, so...
You're not wrong.
As the shark approaches, Lara biffs it in the nose and then grabs onto its fin. I actually did look up whether the hitting a shark in the nose does work, and apparently it's not advised to be done. The best thing to do is hit it in the eyes.
Of course it's not advised to be done. It's a shark.
Yeah.
If it's coming toward you, you're not going to square up to it, I wouldn't think.
There'll be somebody, some gym bro somewhere off the coast like, yeah, hang on lads, I've read this on Wikipedia.
Even if it did work, you wouldn't get enough force when you're underwater to actually do it properly.
The thing I liked about it was when she hits the shark, it almost does the comedic, like, you get punched in the face and they turn to the camera like, look, they've been hit in the face.
And then she uses him as a mount. It's brilliant.
She grabs to the fin, they go racing towards the surface, and Lara propels herself off the shark above the water in the nick of time.
Pretty awesome, to be fair.
Yeah, pretty awesome. She activates her emergency beacon and then passes out on a capsized boat, which I didn't realise until later on is Gus's boat. So Gus is gone, and they've turned his boat over, and that's what Lara passes out on.
Yeah, so the nondescript bad guys would have destroyed the boat when they found it. That's decent visual storytelling, to be fair. It doesn't spoon feed it to you. It makes you do a bit of work to figure it out.
I think there is a line later on where they mention that he's dead, which I think they may have thought, like, oh, that didn't make a whole lot of sense if you're not really paying attention. So they kind of mention...
You're probably not paying attention to the explanation line either, so why bother?
No. You've just had a shark-apult sort of sequence, so you probably need a line to explain what happened.
Yeah.
We get a passage of time, which we later learn is 3 days, before Lara is roused by a great noise underneath her. She then proceeds to be hit in the arse with a submarine. And of course, the first person who wanders out is Chris Barrie, who states her and Bryce's character names in case you'd forgotten. He quips, "Nice day for a dip," continuing the tradition of Chris Barrie, enter scene, hit woofer, leave scene. I did sit down at work today and watch the deleted scenes. This does go on a bit longer, where Bryce starts complaining that Lara takes no care of any of the equipment he gives her. And she kicks him into the water, and then they have to get him back out again.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that just makes her seem like a bitch, doesn't it? Because he's not wrong.
Yeah. We are then taken to a private jet where we meet Jonathan Rice, who talks about how he makes bioweapons for the other passengers that are on this plane. Jonathan Rice is Kieran Hines, who is in a lot of things. He's had a very long career, and he does what I like to refer to as he does good bastard.
He's not as good as Ian Glenn, though. I think he's a more limp villain than Ian Glenn was in the last one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ian Glenn was chewing scenery in the first one, but I think he gives it a good one, especially towards the end.
I mean, he's established here as the baddiest baddie by killing all of the other baddies.
Yeah.
Did you notice which one he killed, though, Mark?
A baddie.
It's Richard Ridings, who's the burger astro in Sirens.
I did not notice that. Well spotted, Carl.
And also in the plane is Richard Ng, who was Swallow in Back to Earth.
I did swap that.
Is this Chris Barrie just getting all his mates in?
I'd love it if you saw that the rest of the plane was the cast of Red Dwarf.
Well, Richard Ng, I think they must have met here.
Yeah.
Didn't we even say that on our episodes about Back to Earth, that he knew Chris Barrie, probably because of this?
In this one, he's credited as, I think it says Richard Wu, but it is definitely him. So Rice kills Monza, who starts to choke on his drink, because Rice used a disease on him, because he'd told MI6 that this meeting was happening. I actually thought this was quite, not harrowing, but quite interesting, how he drinks a clear drink, and then when he coughs it back up again, it's blood, or red. I thought that was quite an interesting visual to use.
It was quite effective, yeah.
Monza's died of Ebola. Rice gives an anti-serum to the other passengers to prevent them dying. He then tells them a bank account number and holds them to ransom for $100 million each. Now, the thing that made me laugh here was he just reels off this number and then tells them to send $100 million. But I'd like to have seen the scene just carry on with one of them going, sorry, what was that number? Can you just say that again for me so I can write this? He just reels it off.
And in this version of 2003, people can just wire money instantly. That kind of money, instantly.
Yeah, 100 million each. And no one on the bank's end will go, that looks a bit suspicious.
I mean, it would be rich people bank, but even still, you wouldn't have the technology to do that. I mean, it's a fictional thing, so it is what it is.
On exiting the plane, we find the person who stole the orb is Shen Lo, who has MI6 on his tail. However, Rice wants the orb at once, mentioning something called Pandora.
Now, Pandora, around this time, was a very, very good, but short-lived in this country, music service. My music taste was formed by that. And that is completely irrelevant to what we're talking about there.
I've got a vague memory of that. Was it like a streaming thing, or was it a downloading thing?
It was Spotify radios based on artists you like, but in 2003.
Oh, I do remember that, yes.
And then evil Americans said we couldn't have it.
Is it not some kind of podcast distribution platform now?
Is it?
In the US, yeah, I'm sure. I think I have a Pandora account that I distribute my podcast through, but it's only in America, so I have to use a browser extension to make the browser think I'm in the US so I can look at it. But there's nothing to look at.
I don't know how to do that.
Back home, Lara's not dealing with things well. She's fighting Hillary in a kendo sparring match and smashing vases. And I've put here, Chris Barrie looks like an absolute badass in this scene.
Yeah, the bow staff badassery was very, very enjoyable. And it is nice to see Chris Barrie being badass. However, neither of them are as good with a bow staff as Mark Dacascos, who is the bow staff king.
True.
Again, utterly irrelevant. I just really like Mark Dacascos, and he is the best with a bow staff.
He's very good in John Wick 3.
It is.
Although I'm guessing Chris Barrie loved the opportunity to actually be a bit of a badass, unlike in Red Dwarf, where he's usually pratfalling all over the place.
Yeah. This is the thing, is he actually gets angry, and you see, and he starts winning. He trips her up and manages to, well, he smacks her across the arse with a kendo stick.
Well, he knows her weaknesses, doesn't he? That he's probably seen her train enough so that he knows when she's wound up, she gets distracted and things like that. And you would think they would use that as a character arc for her to get over. She has to calm down when she's in the middle of a fight or something like that, but it never comes up again.
No. I think you're expecting Lara Croft Tomb Raider to be perhaps a little bit more sophisticated.
Yeah, but it's not hard to set up these things and then pay them off. Basic storytelling. I
have got the 2018 film in my watch list, and if none of this stuff gets resolved in that 2018 reboot, I'm just going to switch it off.
I'm looking forward to the Alicia Vikander, Angelina Jolie team-up movie, and then Hayley Atwell as well. Why not? Just a trio of Lara Crofts.
The thing that gets me is that the actresses that they've got over the years to voice Lara Croft would have been good Lara Crofts. Keely Hawes was Lara Croft at one point. She'd have been a great Lara Croft.
Rona Mitra, she was a model for Lara at one point. Technically, Camilla Luddington actually played her because she did all the mocap while doing the voice in the game.
Yeah.
And then they did a different face model, as they always do for these things. Or usually do for these.
Yeah, any one of those could have been a good Lara Croft. So it'll be interesting to see who gets cast in this new series that's coming out. Bryce says that there could be thousands of orbs out there, but Lara's obsessed and says that they will find the orb. It then cuts to Lara out riding a horse and shooting targets with a sawn-off shotgun. So she's still trying to burn off the anger.
It's just so cool. She got so many cool stunts. I mean, I know it's probably Eunice Hut-Hart, but these scenes are just my jam when it comes to action films. I don't need a good plot. I just need cool shit.
I think going back to, I think that's been one of the things with the John Wick movies is the plot's all right, but it's just brilliant set pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A helicopter flies overhead, and it's the arrival of MI6. Before Lara can kick them out, they inform her about Shen Lo, and that's where they reveal that he killed Gus and sank the boat. More info is given on Rice, who won the Nobel Prize and is the foremost designer of biological weapons in the world and has been behind every act of bioterrorism in the last 15 years.
Hang on, this isn't Resident Evil.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. He's been behind every act of bioterrorism for the last 15 years. So arrest him.
Can't prove it, can't pin anything on the guy. That's the problem.
Bit of a morbid fact there. They call him a modern-day Dr. Mengele, who was the doctor that was behind the gas chambers at Auschwitz.
Yeah, I found that quite unpleasant when I discovered that, because I looked him up as well. And he's a very nasty Nazi piece of shit. And I was like, wow, that was maybe uncalled for?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they were doing the thing of like, right, who's the worst person we can think of that's like in that sort of category of criminal, but yeah, I mean, it gets across the point that he's an absolute bastard.
Yeah.
We need to bring this guy down, so let's get an archaeologist on the case, apparently.
Yeah.
Is she even an archaeologist, or does she just hunt or raid tombs for fun?
I think she's supposed to be an archaeologist. I think. They mention her being one at some point. I'm sure they do.
She's certainly archaeologish. I'm sorry.
She's got to do something to keep Croft Manor. Also, one of the MI6 is Ronan Vibrant, who turns up in a lot of things, and you go, oh, Alan Rick. Oh. He's had a very good career, but he looks so much like Alan Rickman. And he sounds like Alan Rickman.
Maybe that's how he kept getting work. It was, we can't afford Alan Rickman, let's get this guy.
Well, they've got no choice now, have they? Unless this guy's dead as well.
I think he is.
Ah, shit.
It's almost like the equivalent of what they do in the modern era when it comes to casting. There's a very short list of actors and they just make their way through it. Chris Hemsworth available? Nope. Ryan Gosling? Nope. And they just keep going down until they find the
Liam Hemsworth.
The actor that's in everything. Yeah, well, yeah, you have to be very desperate before you get Liam Hemsworth. That's
Jai Courtney. That's probably near the bottom there.
Yeah, Jai Courtney should not be employed to do anything.
Wow. That was mean. Poor Jai.
I mean, he could work in McDonald's or something like that, but I mean, in Hollywood.
They really wanted him to be a thing as well. We'll put him in Terminator, we'll put him in Die Hard, we'll put him in everything.
We'll put him in that weird Frankenstein movie as a gargoyle.
And then when they finally they just went, just put him as like a supporting actor in something like Suicide Squad. That's when he actually did something people went, oh, that was all right, that was. And then they killed him in the second one. Right, so Lara realises Shenlo is taking the orb to Rice so he can open Pandora's box. Then we get what the real story, in inverted commas, of Pandora's box is, which is basically the story that helps fit the plot easier. In 2300 BC, a pharaoh discovered a place where life began, which was named the Cradle of Life. He found the box, but all that was inside was the Ramante, or anti-life, the companion to life, which was a plague that levelled his entire army.
The Darkseid will be along in a minute looking for it then.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
A soldier was sent to hide the box at the end of the world, ending up in India, where it was found by Alexander the Great, where it proceeded to wipe out an entire army. Sure. So he then had it sent back to the Cradle of Life, and no one has seen it or knows where that is ever since.
I mean, it's got a quite high body count at this point, this box, hasn't it?
Yeah, 2 armies. I just like the fact he goes, right, go get it. Right, it's terrible. Send it back to where we found it.
Yeah, well, it's often a thing in treasure hunting films, isn't it, where it's, oh, we should never have found that. That's pretty much the message in all Indiana Jones movies. This was better left hidden. And in all the Uncharted games as well.
True. I haven't seen the film, but I've heard it was not great.
The film is very not great.
Okay.
It's impossible to look at Tom Holland and see him as an adult. I just can't do it. I just look at him and think, because he works in a bar in some part of the film, and I'm thinking, are you even old enough to be in here? Never mind working here.
He's going to hit his 40s, and then they'll start casting him in roles of someone in their 30s or late 20s.
Yeah. Which is good if you can get it, I suppose.
Yeah. Slasher movie girl syndrome. Right, the map is on the orb that they found in the temple. However, Shenlo and Rice now have that and intend to use the plague as the ultimate bioweapon. It's not a bad idea, to be fair, this thing that can wipe out armies and everything like that, trying to harness it, but even from this early stage I did have the think of, how are they going to turn it into the ultimate bioweapon?
To what end as well?
Yeah.
Just have it, okay, but who are you going to use it on? What reason would you have to use it on people? Or are you just going to have it?
Yeah, just threaten to use it to people. MI6, on the orders of the Queen, task Lara with retrieving the orb.
Well, I love all this where it's, yes, the Queen personally told us to do this. I'm sure she did. I'm sure she cares about this stuff.
Fucking hell. It's like, no, the Queen had, and the King has, no actual authority. Like, she does, it's not like she, like, no, she just cuts ribbons in it.
They phone her. But, well, they phone somebody, and then they say that they've got permission from the Queen. Maybe that this was the whole charade, is the Queen's like, yes, absolutely, dispatch Lara Croft. And the whole, oh yes, love corgis thing was just a front. And she's really like the greatest tactical general we've ever known.
Also, if your audience is primarily American, there's that romanticism of the royal family, isn't there, that exists over there, so they'll buy into, yeah, the Queen of England does stuff like this, whereas we watch it and we think, no, she doesn't.
Also, if somebody rings the Queen from your house, you 1471 that to find out what the number was.
Yeah, she'll be unlisted, so you'll just get unable to 1471. That's a throwback.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of listeners that won't know what that means.
MI6 offer their best agents, but Lara doesn't want them. She wants Terry Sheridan, former Royal Marine turned mercenary and apparently a traitor. MI6 object. She can't possibly expect them to release him. And then we hard cut to what appears to be the Russian gulag.
Yeah.
Again, this is another great set. Just this tiny bit of her pulling into this place. It's really good. Lara walks through the prison where the inmates understandably go absolutely mental that Angelina Jolie is walking through their prison.
I mean, they've not seen a woman for a long time, and then this one turns up. It's like waiting for a bus and a good one turning up.
One big sexy bus turns up.
Yeah, I'm not sure your analogy quite works.
The thing I noticed is the guard who's walking behind her has got headphones on. And I was like, why is that? And then it's actually explained in the deleted scenes. He puts them on before they go in. And when she says, why are you wearing those? He says, because of you. And then they walk in and it's all the noise from the prisoners.
That's not a really good joke, is it?
No. I did like the joke where he says, welcome to Fantasy Island, as you walk in. Then the sexiness in the film goes up a level as we meet Terry doing press-ups off the ceiling. He is, of course, played by Gerard Butler from 300.
Yeah, Jerry Butler enters the film. Daniel Craig was obviously had better things to do.
Apparently he was offered it to come back, and he turned it down.
Yeah.
But obviously it's been a while since we recorded the last one. Didn't he die at the end of the last one?
No, he dies and then she reverses time and fixes it. So yeah.
Right.
Kind of, sort of, but not really. And then, no.
He's alive in the new timeline that's created when she changes the past.
Gotcha. Right, okay. So he was offered it to come back, and he turned it down, which led to the creation of Terry. I actually prefer Gerard Butler in this than Daniel Craig in the first one, to be honest. I think he's more fun.
I think it benefits from a new character with a different background, and yeah, I think you're right. I think Daniel Craig would have been fine if we'd have had him, but yeah, I think I agree. Yeah.
Well, Jerry Butler has way more to do, which helps.
Also, unlike Daniel Craig, they let him keep his accent.
Yes.
So he could be a lot more sort of natural than Daniel Craig's Midwestern American accent that a lot of British actors seem to do in the 2000s.
I mean, you say let him keep his accent. I think with Jerry Butler, you get what you want.
True.
Yeah, so you get what you get. Even you don't. If you want him to do another accent, he just won't.
No, that's true. I did watch something. I watched something the other day that's from a film called Cop Shop, which has got him in. That's on Amazon Prime, and I'm sure he's supposed to be American, but he's American Scottish.
Yeah.
It's like the start of the sentence is an American, but the end of the sentence he can't hold back the Scottish.
Or Leonidas, where he's ancient Greek but Scottish.
Yes. Oh God, he is, isn't he? I haven't watched 300 in ages. Yeah, he's never really managed it, has he?
No, he doesn't. He just doesn't. That's what he is.
It's the Sean Connery method. No, Hunt for Red October, Scottish Russian.
Yeah. I think they usually just write his characters to be Scottish as well. I'm thinking of Plane, which is the most recent film he was in, and the character is Scottish. And then other stuff I've seen him in, I don't know. Maybe they're not explicit about his background, but yeah, he's just always Jerry Butler, and I like Jerry Butler. So
I do. He's very charismatic when he's talking in interviews, and I think that shows through in the roles he does. That he never does anything sort of huge, but he keeps doing consistently decent stuff.
Well, it wasn't long after this he was in a run of really dire rom-coms, like P.S. I Love You and nonsense like that.
Yeah, then he did Phantom of the Opera, didn't he? He was a couple of years after this is Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, so he did his rom-com run, and he seems to be going back to action more recently.
I never saw Phantom of the Opera, but if he's doing it in Scottish accent, that'd be great.
I haven't seen his Phantom, no.
Anyway, Terry's offered £5 million, a new identity, and a flat in Zurich, which Lara has the key for, or anywhere he wants a flat. So Lara's got a flat in Zurich if he doesn't want the flat in Zurich.
Just a spare one. She's not using it. She can give it away. Fine.
True. Archaeology pays.
Well, she's inherited wealth, isn't she? So
She wants him to help find the Shay Ling, which is the crime syndicate that Shen Lo is part of. He says he'll get them there in a day once they get into China. Lara insists on no guns or weapons. Terry suggests a truck. Lara has a better idea. So already we've got this bantering. I think the chemistry between them is very quick. It's there from the off, isn't it?
you sense the history between them. Yeah.
I think they actually do a relatively good job of painting how they're exes with some sexual tension, and they do that a lot better in this than they did with the Daniel Craig character.
So we cut to Terry and Lara being dropped from a plane in a pod, a glider pod of some kind. They appear to have little to no control over it. However, it doesn't matter as Lara ejector seats them and they parachute to the ground, while the pod hits a mountain and then skims like a stone along the coastline, causing a hell of a lot of damage.
Yeah, I'm not seeing how that's a stealthy approach.
They'll never know we're coming. Now let's just destroy a village. Terry thinks they've got a long way to go. However, Lara seems to know a local friendly woman who has kept her guns for her and has even tuned her motorbike.
Yep.
Brilliant.
I was thinking about this because initially I was like, that's ridiculous. And then part of me was like, well, she could be ex-soldier. She could be ex-military or something like that.
The fact that MI6 come to her suggests that she's done some work for them or with them in the past.
Yeah, and this little lady who's got the thing, she might be ex-military, and because she's obviously got some skills because she tuned the motorbike.
Yeah, and somehow knew Lara was coming and to have the motorbike ready.
Absolutely. Well, she probably called on her. I don't know if you noticed how often this comes up. Her flip phone.
Ah, yes.
Anybody feel nostalgic for a flip phone after watching this?
Yes. I want a razor.
I'm guessing there was some sponsorship on the go here to have that flip phone.
Do you think? I know it's jumping ahead, but holy shit, the product placement later on when there's that background of logos. Holy shit.
Yep. Lot of flip phones in this. I think I had one of them at some point.
I never had a flip phone.
I did, and I loved it.
I did have one, but I think I ended up breaking. This is the thing, and it's the ones with the new ones you've got now, which are like the whole screen is a flip phone. It's got that one structural weakness in it that puts me off.
Yeah, a mate of mine's got one, and there's like just a little white stripe in the middle of his screen, and it's not that old, and it's like, that's a shit phone, that. Yeah.
My sister had one of the Motorola Razors, and I think there was only so many flips you could actually do. You could only open it so many times. It was like, it would be thousands or tens of thousands. But eventually it got to the point where the screen wouldn't work. So, yeah. I always had normal, I had Nokias mostly, just bricks.
Oh, the 3310. Anyway, Lara calls home to find that there isn't a key to read the orb. Lara assumes it must have been in the temple somewhere and asks Bryce to look at all of the photos that she took. And then I've put here, then time stops as Gerard Butler takes his shirt off.
I mean, It was quite pleasant.
I mean, they even seem to acknowledge it with Lara looking out and talking and seeing them. It's just like, Jerry Butler's looking good. Let's just take a moment for that. Right. As they bike up, Terry says the Shay Ling have men on every road. However, Lara seems to know different than this, which makes me wonder why she insisted on bringing Terry with her in the first place.
Oh, you're just so harsh. This is fun. It's not... Don't pick the plot hole. Okay.
Well, it does make me laugh because it's like Terry's this fantastic mercenary and all this, and he knows how to get into the Shay Ling. And it does reveal that he's got a plan at some point, but up until this point, it's like, you really didn't need him.
But she wanted him.
True. And, you see that from the off that they want each other.
I think something worth highlighting, actually, in this scene is how well the kind of peaceful music goes alongside the shooty bikey shit. I really enjoyed that. The incongruousness of it. Yeah, there's some actually really nice... directional shit in this.
Yeah, I mean, we're also in prime John Woo era. Obviously, with Lara Croft, you've got the double pistols anyway, but there is some jumping through the air in slow motion with double pistols going on in this. But it does look good. So I don't know about you, but I didn't mind. That was like, oh, that's a John Woo shot, but it looks nice.
Yeah, but the one thing I kept wondering during this whole section is, why are they here at all? What's going on? I don't think they explain why they're going anywhere well enough.
No, I think the idea is they've got to get to Shanghai, but I think from the sign they're like 70 kilometres away, which seems really odd.
Yeah, and they just go for a random walk through the mountains and they're ambushed.
Well, before they go into the walking stage, we cut to some of the worst green screen I've ever seen. I genuinely thought that this was revealing that Lara is riding her bike along the Great Wall of China. Did either of you... Because it looked like
That's
the
what she's
Great Wall
doing,
of China.
isn't it?
Yeah, but it's only for like a moment and then she pulls off, and Terry's not on the Great Wall of China either.
Yeah, she's just doing that to be cool. There's no other reason. Also, confirms that this isn't set in the game universe, because in the game universe, in Tomb Raider 2, the Great Wall of China is destroyed.
Oh, I was about to say I couldn't remember if that was a reference to a game, but...
Yeah, well, the first level in Tomb Raider 2 is the Great Wall, and there's dinosaurs underneath it. There's two T-Rexes underneath it.
Oh, I need to play them again. I really do.
I think if you played them again, you would think, how did I ever play this? How could I control this? This is awful.
I did see the other day on the GOG game sale, all 3 of the first Tomb Raiders were for sale for £3.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got them on PlayStation Store. I think it was about that price as well. But I haven't played them since I bought them, and I feel like if I was to go back, because I've been spoiled by responsive modern controls, I just wouldn't know what to do. This is horrendous. How did anybody ever play this game? It was all we had. We didn't know any better.
It's true. They dirt bike and flirt before coming to a mountain where they have to continue on foot. It's here where Terry starts to delve into their previous relationship and ask if the 4 months they had together meant nothing. Lara corrects him and said it was 5 months. It seems like it was very intense if it was only 4 months.
Yeah, they were on a mission, I guess. Missions.
Yeah, they do seem to be much more intimate and old flamey for something that was, well, if it's only 4 months, a flash in the pan.
Yeah, but for Lara Croft, that would be like dog years. That would be like an eternity for Lara Croft. It's all adrenaline all the time for her, isn't it? So
True.
We catch up with a young man who's carrying the orb. He's snatched by Rice's men, who blind him with a little spray bottle and take them to their top secret baddie base. They tell him that he'll probably see again in an hour, maybe. These are bastards.
I know, right?
However, when they arrive, there's no orb in the box, just a flip phone. Rice takes hold of the phone and enjoys the superior connectivity and clear line quality, and then has the messenger killed. So the messenger's blind and doesn't know what's going on, and then he's stabbed.
yeah, and then he's lost his phone as well, which isn't great.
this slightly gets justified when he asks Shenlo on the phone if he just didn't like that messenger, and Shenlo says, "No, I didn't."
I just like how incredibly simplistic baddies they are. It's just... I don't need complex baddies in an action film. I just want kicking and motorbikes and explosions and dumb shittery. That's why I like this film, because it's got all of those things. Everything else is kind of superfluous.
I need somewhere in the middle. I need there to be some meaning. Otherwise, it's just set piece after set piece. I kind of need to be invested a little bit in what's going on.
And that is the difference between you and me, Craig.
I think Indiana Jones kind of made it slightly easier for themselves because they could have that, not that much to the baddies, but you got more invested in disliking them because they were Nazis.
Yeah, and that's all you need to know, really. They're Nazis, so therefore evil. Job done. But with this, then you need to do a bit more work because you don't know what their allegiance is, really. You don't know who these people are.
Yeah, there wasn't ever in any of the Indiana Jones films a conflicted Nazi that you felt like maybe would come to the good side. You were just like, nope, Nazi, dead.
I suppose Kate Blanchett's character was a bit like that. She wasn't innately evil in the way that other villains were.
True. I blocked that film out.
I quite like Crystal Skull.
Really?
Yeah, it's better than Temple of Doom. I hate Temple of Doom.
I don't like Temple of Doom, to be fair. My favourite one's still Last Crusade. And I didn't watch the last one because I don't think my heart could take it.
No, I've not seen the most recent one.
It's on digital soon. Or maybe already is by the time you listen to this. I don't know.
Rice threatens to kill Shen's children when Shen hints that he may just sell the orb to Lara, and then offers another $12 million for the orb and Lara's dead body. I kind of like how some of the baddies are like, well, no, I may just sell it to the good person. That they are all about money, and it's not world domination for some of them, it is just cash.
Yeah, but cash will do you no good when he opens Pandora's box and wipes out half the world.
True. Back with our heroes, Lara pulls a gun on Terry as he's wasting time. However, just as this happens, they're ambushed by the Shay Ling. Turns out Terry's whole plan was to get captured, as that was the only way in, then offer to buy the orb. Lara then mentions that the other buyer is Rice, and Terry realises they might be buggered.
You have such a delightful way of narrating, Carl.
Oh, thank you. I just love Jerry Butler's reaction to this of, oh, him, bugger.
Basically, they're doing the Dark Knight a few years early. We wanted to be captured. It was the plan all along.
Exactly. If Jerry Butler joined those films, he'd have been great as something. He'd have fit quite well into the Dark Knight ones. Sometimes I get mistaken that Jerry Butler was supposed to be Wolverine, but that was Dougray Scott.
Yeah.
Wasn't it supposed to be Danny DeVito?
As Wolverine?
Yeah, I'm sure that there was talk about Danny DeVito being Wolverine, because he's little. And Wolverine's little in the comics.
Never heard that.
No, me either.
Yeah, he's supposed to be little. Well, he's quite short because he was born hundreds of years ago, but also he's supposed to be like super ripped, which Danny DeVito is not.
Can you imagine if Danny DeVito got himself into shape for it, though? Ripped Danny DeVito as Wolverine.
Oh, God. A very different X-Men landscape.
I've just looked it up on tofab.com. Danny DeVito has claimed he was almost cast as Wolverine.
That sounds like a legit source.
Were they talking to Danny DeVito outside a bar at some point?
Yeah, I was totally almost Wolverine.
Oh dear. Shenlo takes Lara away and reveals that he has a huge army of terracotta warriors. They barter over the orb before Shen turns Lara down. This then leads to a handcuffed fight scene between Shen and Lara, while Terry is getting his ass handed to him by a henchman whose assistant he previously wooed.
So, the terracotta soldiers are very, very cool. And
yes.
I was genuinely horrified. I mean, obviously they're not the real ones, but I was genuinely horrified at the destruction of terracotta warriors. It was brutal, I thought, as a scene.
This action sequence was a mess, though. It was just so sloppily put together.
I think maybe I was distracted by the destruction, because I didn't clock that through my horror.
It's very difficult to follow. There's too many rapid cuts and there's no sense of geography. Basically, you talked about John Wick earlier on. It's everything that John Wick didn't do.
I thought to start with it was going to be quite a tense scene with them sort of doing a cat and mouse through the warriors. And then Shenlong just destroys these terracotta warriors. Which again is I burst out laughing just after, because he's just explained how expensive they are. And he just shatters them completely. A fun thing about it is, on the IMDb, I looked under the Did You Know section, and they mention, like, oh, the head breaks separately from the body, but that's actually factually accurate, because that's how terracotta warriors were made.
Okay.
Like, perfect. You know, we're not bothered about plot, but we better get those fucking terracotta warriors sorted.
I was reminded of The Mummy 3 a little bit, that film that doesn't exist. Because there's terracotta warriors in that. But there were actual real terracotta warriors, as in they did stuff. But that film doesn't exist, so I don't know why I'm referencing it.
No, I never watched that film that doesn't exist. Lara defeats Shen, and we find the orb is in Shanghai. Lara takes her medallion back from Shen that she found in the temple, and then she decides to let him live until he tries to shoot her, so she throws a dagger into his heart. Terry and Lara then escape in a daring upside-down rope gunfight.
Which was cool.
It was cool. They get into a jeep and head off to Shanghai. Back at Croft Manor, Hilary and Bryce are having some bro time.
I love this scene. I think it's so simplistic, but works really, really well at just establishing the difference between the two characters, yet they're still fond of each other, and that's what friendship is.
Yeah. I was like, oh, Bryce is playing like a helicopter simulator, and then it pays off kind of later.
See, that's what I was talking about. Set up, payoff. Basic storytelling.
Exactly. And Hilary's reading, I think Hilary's still reading books of trying to figure out the orb, but they're in Bryce's caravan rather than being in the manor. There's a whole film about what they get up to. It's be like Home Alone.
Well, I reminded myself, I didn't actually go back and play them, but I reminded myself of Tomb Raider Legend, which is where the Bryce-esque character appears, where she has her support team, and they have a little cage, like a glass cage in Croft Manor in that game where they operate out of, and yeah, they just basically sitting in front of a computer, guys in the chair sort of idea, which is what Bryce is, effectively.
Lara calls and sends them images of the medallion, and Bryce realises that the key to the orb is sound. This is due to the medallion having a picture of a woman playing, I think it's a horn on it, or some kind of trumpet, so they realise that a series of sounds can open the key and find the way to the Cradle of Life.
So what you're saying is they nicked the plot from He-Man.
Oh god, they've nicked the plot from He-Man.
Gwildor would be shitting himself.
And you forgot that she sends pictures using the high-resolution camera on her flip phone, because you'd be able to make out those pictures. You'd be able to make out detail on those images, wouldn't you? What was the pixel density of pictures taken with those kind of phones?
Oh, it's got to be 2 megapixels at least. At most, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I remember how poor those were. And it took forever to send them, so her sending, like... Well, the way she uses the phone throughout the film, there's no way.
No.
Terry and Lara are hiding out in Shanghai and having a heart-to-heart. Terry reveals betraying his men and his country didn't hurt, but leaving Lara did. Again, 5 months. This was some deep, deep stuff that they were going through here. It almost feels like it was like a teenage thing.
Or just a battlefield intensity thing. You know, these connections are forged like under stressful circumstances. And I guess the idea is maybe when they go back to normal life, they find out they've got nothing in common because they're not fearing for their life every 2 seconds.
So while they're having this heart-to-heart, they're interrupted by Rice in a helicopter who's trying to land it in what appears to be a quite small street. Again, though, a really nice street. The set is absolutely gorgeous with the lights and the set dressing. It's really, really nice. And then they try and land a helicopter in the middle of it.
I wonder if they actually filmed in a street in Shanghai. Probably not.
I think some of this was shot in... Mind you, China banned the film.
Yeah.
When it came out because they didn't like the depiction.
It's before the era of pandering to China. in blockbusters. That's a very recent thing, actually. Let's set a portion of it in China and make them look awesome, because it will release in China and then 1 billion people will see it.
Yeah. It always interests me how many films that get regarded as a massive flop and then you find out it did millions in China.
Yeah, because they only allow like half a dozen foreign films or outside films a year.
What was the one? The one that's... Oh, Terminator Genesis.
I like Terminator Genesis.
Oh my god.
I realise that I am in a minority, but I really liked Terminator Genesis. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought that it was brave in how it's fucked with the timeline. I thought that was really fun. Come at me, bro.
I was slightly excited for it when I was like, oh, Matt Smith's in it. And then it turns out he's barely in it.
He's in like 2 scenes, yeah.
Yeah. Also, they ruined the big plot twist in the trailer. It annoyed me. I am still quite interested, and I have it on my playlist to watch Dark Fate.
I like Dark Fate. Dark Fate gets back to the fundamentals. It's good.
Dark Fate basically, if I'm right, undoes everything after Terminator 2 and is essentially in the timeline, the real Terminator 3.
I mean, massive tangent, but ever since Terminator 2, they've essentially just been making different versions of Terminator 3.
Yeah.
Because you've got Terminator 3, and I suppose Salvation isn't really... Well, that's more Terminator 4. Okay, I'll give it that. Yeah. But then the Sarah Connor Chronicles, that's actually Terminator 3. And Genesis is Terminator 3 again. And then Dark Fate is the new Terminator 3. And now they've just given up, I think.
Yeah, I think because wasn't Dark Fate the only one that really had Cameron's input?
Yeah, but I think people didn't give it a chance because they're like, oh god, not another one of these, and it flopped.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think it's going to be quite good. It's interrupted by Rice in a helicopter, who is buying the orb from Xian, who is Chen's brother. There's a shootout, and Lara starts making a race to the roof, and Eunice Huthart really earns her money here. She does. I mean, what she does, like, acrobatic flips, rather than just running up the building, she, like, flips in the splits twice. And
oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
I seem to remember a lot of, that's definitely not Angelina Jolie type shots.
Yeah. It does say on the sort of did you know thing, it was like, did you know one of Angelina Jolie's stunt doubles is a man? I was like, it's probably not, the man probably wasn't the person doing the splits and sort of bouncing up this side of this building.
If the man was a dancer, then sure.
Mm. Everyone races to the top of the building where the trade-off is now happening because it was easier to land the helicopter. Rice takes the orb and then shoots Xian as they're escaping. Lara pole vaults onto the helicopter and puts a tracker on it before falling into the streets below. The pole vaulting thing was fantastic, I thought.
Yes. So the whole thing is made up of great stunts and great action scenes all over the place, all over the world. And if that doesn't strike me as kind of being video game accurate, I don't know if it was done deliberately, but it just felt like each scene change was like a new level.
There is that, yeah. You change locations, you get a different backdrop to do stuff. Although the video games, certainly the PlayStation era video games, which is what these films are nominally based on, they weren't really action games. You did shoot things in them, but they were more puzzle games.
Yeah.
Right.
It's revealed Rice's top secret baddie lab is underground in the middle of a city. It's actually in a mall called the Times Square Mall, which is in the middle of Shanghai. Rice isn't taking any chances and has all of the antidote put on a plane ready to go. The orb is being examined and has a timer next to it saying that it's nearly 50% complete. Terry and Lara walk through the wall following the tracker. They pass Rice, who in a funny moment is stuck in a lift with a child that presses all of the buttons and then just turns and grins at him.
It's brilliant.
And Kieran Hines does really convey that if he could get away with it, he'd kill this child.
Good trick. That's what Kate Bishop did in the last episode of Hawkeye when she was having to distract Yelena.
I've not watched Hawkeye. I've heard it was good, though.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It is really good.
Breaking their way into the lab security room, they find that Rice is already decoding the orb, and it's now jumped to 93%. So Rice already knows how to decode the orb, which is never really explained how he figured that out.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Video game.
Lara evacuates the lab by setting off the fire alarm, which I thought was quite considerate. You know, these are just, doctors. They might not be evil. It leaves just her, Terry, and a few of the main goons. We then get a lovely John Woo double guns through the air in slow motion, just missing a dove. Lara defeats the goons and sends the missing information Bryce and Hillary need back to them via what appears to be Google Glass.
I put that in my notes too. Did Google Glass exist at this point, or was this something that they stole?
Oh no, Google Glass didn't exist by this. This is something that's been in sci-fi for ages, but it was one of those like, oh, they'll never make this.
Yeah, the glasses tech is heads-up display. I mean, look at RoboCop, for example. That's essentially Google Glass, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose so.
However, Rice and his men return and capture Lara. Rice then reveals what the big plan is, which is he's already taken the money from his buyers. They then take the weapon from him, use it, only to find it's uncontrollable, and they will get the blame by, as Rice puts it, whoever survives. And then Rice will sell his antidote to the highest bidder, to which he says the line, "Don't you feel this world would be better if there's not as many people in it?" Which, admittedly, for a moment I went, yeah, that's fair enough.
Bit Thanos, that, Carl. Thanos.
I do have no hair and a lot of jewellery.
You haven't got like a purple face or a chin that looks like a mountain range, though.
You know, I might have the Joker thing of I've got normal makeup over the top of it, just wipe it away and it's just purple.
Okay.
The orb finishes decoding and Rice orders Lara shot, but she's saved by Terry. There's another shootout and Lara and Terry steal the orb and escape using wingsuits that Terry ordered earlier on the phone.
The wingsuits are so cool, and it really does feel like a level on a video game.
If it was a level in a video game, it'd be the worst one because they wouldn't have optimised the actual gameplay and you'd keep crashing into buildings and stuff.
Oh, just because it's true doesn't mean I want to hear it, Craig.
That's the way it usually goes, where you've got a single level gimmick in a video game. It's like, wow, this sucks. This is really bad.
Or in the same way that you lock the butler in the fridge. In this, you would just try and just tank yourself into the ground as hard as you could, or fly out of the way that you're supposed to be going. There's actually a very good game called Steep, which is like a winter sports simulator, and you can go down a mountain in wingsuits, and it's really good fun because you just try and hit a church with a bell in its tower. Apparently, the wingsuits were performed by the two men who developed them. There was no CGI wires, nets, or any other special effects. So not even a net. The modern wingsuit was invented by Patrick de Gerardin, who died in a parachute accident in 1998 while testing it out in Hawaii.
Shit.
That's a successful test.
Yeah, so this is only 5 years in from the invention, and they were like, yeah, you can use these suits. And they're like, oh no, you can use these suits.
Fair.
Maybe the wingsuit worked perfectly. It was the parachute that was the problem.
Yep. That's risky. No nets, no nothing. I mean, nowadays you can get away with it because people do it for the weekend, don't they? But at the time, I can imagine it was a bit...
You wouldn't get insurance for doing that now. The idea of just doing zero safety precautions when it comes to doing a stunt like that. Whenever Tom Cruise talks about doing the stunts for Mission Impossible, he always releases a featurette where he talks about how difficult it was to actually get it sanctioned to be able to do the stuff they're doing. So that wouldn't happen nowadays. It would be very difficult for them to actually have that stunt happen.
Yeah. I mean, Fast and the Furious haven't used wingsuits, so that's how difficult it probably is to get that signed off.
If Fast and Furious used wingsuits, it'd be digital replacements. It would look like a video game if Fast and Furious did it. With
Vin Diesel's head on it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Brilliant.
Family, as he glides through the sky.
Yeah.
I would watch the fuck out of that.
Well, there's another one to come, so maybe we'll get it. As Lara and Terry escape, however, Rice finds Lara's Google Glass and realises that she sent information somewhere, but we're not quite sure where yet.
But he finds out that she has two-factor authentication, so she can't use them. So he can't use them. Oh no, it sent a code to her phone. I don't have her phone. Can't log in.
On the boat, Lara and Terry flirt some more, and this is where another Red Dwarf connection comes in. The submarine captain Oh, the captain. Oh no, I've missed a Red Dwarf connection. The captain of the submarine at the very beginning of the film is Graham McTavish, who's the warden in Series 8.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I like Graham McTavish. He's in Outlander.
he's in the Wicker Tree as well, the official sequel to the Wicker Man, and he's really good in that.
He's in quite a lot of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, there's a scene where it's him and Christopher Lee, and it's just like, who's going to chew scenery harder? Lara and Terry flirt before finally starting to get it on. There's some nipple play before Terry gets handcuffed to the bed and Lara decides to leave, stating she doesn't want to have to kill Terry when he inevitably betrays her. Yeah, she really goes for his nipples at one point, I noticed.
Good.
Yep. It just confused me because he was like, oh, yeah. And it's like, I don't know about that. And then he gets handcuffed, which he's into. I thought was quite funny.
Of course he is. It might be the first instance of Lara Croft being actually sexualized, other than the way she looks, obviously. You know, she's broadly asexual in the video games. Like, she doesn't express any interest in anyone, really. So this is a weird thing. I'd never seen this film before, so I've only seen it the once, and I found it just a bit strange. I was like, I wouldn't expect that from Lara Croft, actually. No, it was a bad thing. I was surprised.
Well, I think in this one they do have this where she's interested, but they do have it that there is an emotional connection there.
Yeah.
As we see we get later on into the film.
Yeah, and Angelina Jolie has a lot of sex scenes in her films as well, so it's not out with the realms of what she does.
The next day, I'm assuming that's the next day because it's nighttime when she leaves and it's daytime when she arrives here. Lara just rocks up to somebody's house, rocks up with a satellite dish and borrows their TV to broadcast the last images of the orb to Croft Manor using a very handy flip phone.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
She just MacGyvers up some kind of transmission medium.
She even uses the kids' chewing gum as the final thing to make it work.
Yeah.
Which was really minging.
Yeah. Also, there's the flip phone in this. There's also that little flip camcorder that she uses all the way through, which I think at the time, because at the time I had a camcorder and it was the mini DV tapes, and they were bulky as anything. So seeing this little tiny flip out camcorder is like, oh, that is good. What is that? Is that digitape? Is that what? Is that got a hard drive on it? It still impressed me now that you can get camcorders that small.
She uses a webcam, doesn't she, basically?
Yeah. Bryce sends the audio back, but seems quite odd by saying it's not going to work, and then Lara tells him to send the audio file because on the phone it's distorted, which activates the orb.
Yeah, because your phone's speaker won't distort it in any way, apparently.
The orb's activated, and a large sort of light show happens around Lara, revealing the Cradle of Life is in Africa, near Mount Kilimanjaro.
Next gaming level.
Yeah.
No, they say life began in Africa, didn't they? So that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought that, actually, yeah. Lara asks Bryce to contact Kossa, but on hanging up, we see that Rice has captured Bryce and Hillary, and now will be on their way to Africa also. So I genuinely thought before seeing this film, I know that there was a scene where Chris Barrie actually kicked a bit of arse, and I thought this would be it, that they put up a fight before getting kidnapped. But no, they've already beat up Hillary and tied him up.
This would have been where to pay off that he has some skills.
Yeah. Just, yeah, he manages to defend Bryce a little bit and then eventually gets overwhelmed. I kind of hoped it was in the deleted scenes, but it isn't, sadly. We then meet Kossa, who's another one of Lara's seemingly never-ending network of global associates. The thing that this is a bit of a plot hole, is she asks Bryce to contact him, but then he gets captured. But fortunately, Lara rings him on his flip phone.
Has he got a flip phone?
He's got a flip phone.
Good.
In his Jeep, which he's cleaned because she knows that she likes her equipment clean, which I thought was maybe a double entendre, and if it was a really bad one.
Is this guy wondering if he's the next to die, though? Because every one of her associates, apart from the girl in the village, has ended up dead.
Yeah, while doing my notes during this, I was fully ready to type the sentence, "A quick day's work for Damon Hounslow."
Yeah.
Lara parachutes into his Jeep, because of course she does.
Oh, it's magnificent. It's magnificent. I loved it.
I did love it, but the thing about it made me laugh was he's there on the phone going, "What do you mean? Where are you?" And it's like, you must have seen, at the very least, something in your rear view coming towards you.
No one has peripheral vision in these kinds of films.
Oh, dear. Meanwhile, Terry meets the family that Lara met in China, and the little girl says she's gone to Africa to play with the elephants. This raised a thing for me in this film, which was, what's the time scale we're dealing with here? Lara left Terry and then went to that family in the morning and then made her way to Africa. Also, Rice has gone back to England to kidnap Hillary and Bryce, and then Terry turns up seemingly like he's on Lara's trail, but it feels like that was like later on that day or something like that. It's this weird time thing for me that just you kind of have to shrug off. Did you notice this at all?
I was wondering about it, yeah. How long does it take to get from London to China? How long does it take to get from China to Africa? So, yeah.
Whilst accurate and true, and the plot hole that you say, I don't think it'd have been much fun watching them sat on the plane doing nothing and reading a book.
Obviously not, but I don't know, it just felt like this was kind of cobbled together. Like, Jan de Bont has said he didn't enjoy making this film, and then he didn't direct again. So it almost makes you wonder in the edit if he just went, oh, bugger it, just throw it into this sequence and then we'll get to the last big bit.
They could have used it to create urgency, though. It would be, if we leave now, we can make it to Africa in X amount of hours, and then it turns out they're also X amount of hours away, and they could have created urgency. So you could have still had them cutting right to when they were there, but then you have a sense of how long it took them to get there. You don't need to actually see the journey. It's the Indiana Jones effect, isn't it? Draw a line on a map. That's their traffic.
Yeah.
And you're right, he has done urgency well before when he did Speed.
Yeah.
Not so well when he did Speed 2, but...
I just like the idea that Jerry Butler's character just went, well, she's gone, I'm going into town, I'm going to go find out where my flat is, I've got £5 million. Then about later on he's like, actually no one leaves Terry Sheridan chained to a bed. I'm going to track her down.
I've suddenly decided that I have some kind of moral code that I need to abide by.
Yeah. I abandoned my men and my country, but leave me handcuffed to a bed in my underwear, that's too far. They question a local tribe about the Cradle of Life, who allow Lara to enter with the orb. The chief states that the Cradle of Life is in a crater protected by the Shadow Guardians, which sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon series to me.
It does. It would be on at like 7 a.m. after a rerun of Gargoyles.
Yeah. The Shadow Guardians protect the Crater of Life and Pandora's Box. No one has gone looking for the box has returned. The Shadow Guardians do not sleep, never rest, move like the wind, and anything that walks their land will die. How do they know this if everyone who's gone in has never come back?
Just written down somewhere, isn't it? It's just the way it is.
True. Sorry, can you go through that list again?
Yeah, they don't sleep, they never rest, they move like the wind, anything that walks their land will die.
Do they have strength of the bear and speed of the puma, though?
Oh, God, I hope so. Well, when we meet them, they are pretty bloody strong. Lara, Cossa, and 20 men sent by the tribal chief walk to the Shadow Guardians' land. One of them talking to Lara, saying that he's not going to turn back when the others turn back, he's going to come with them, which was like, oh, yeah. As soon as he was like, oh, well, you're really, brave and well done and thank you, you're just like, dead. He's going to be dead in like the next 2 minutes. And he is, sure enough. They get attacked by Rice's men. Many of the tribesmen are killed, nearly all of them. The person who pledged his allegiance moments earlier is shot. However, he manages to throw a spear and gets one right through a henchman before he falls down dead. And Lara has a moment staring at him and cries for this person that she's just met.
Yeah. It didn't really feel like that was necessary, really.
Yeah. At least keep him around a bit longer. Not immediately after he pledges allegiance.
Well, there's not long left of the film.
True. It was building up to this where it's like, Cossa is going to get killed. Cossa is going to not make it. And he doesn't seem to be like an action hero, like he cowers when there's guns and all this kind of thing. He's just a chap that Lara knows.
Yeah.
Rice demands that Lara takes them to Pandora's box, and when she refuses, he reveals that he has Hillary and Bryce, and uses that to force her hand. So Lara sets off into the Shadowlands. However, as Hillary and Bryce are led back to the helicopter, they're saved by Terry, and now Bryce is going to have to fly a helicopter.
Yep. Set up, payoff.
The thing I like about this is Chris Barrie's reaction when he says, "Do either of you know how to fly a helicopter?" He's like, "Yes." "What?" And then Chris Barrie going, "What?" Because he's probably one of the people who knows him best, and he's no idea. And then we realise it's because he's played 150 hours of a simulator, but he's only spent... I thought the gag was going... He said he's only spent 2 in the air, and I thought it was going to be 2 minutes rather than 2 hours, and that he crashed immediately.
But I really do like the development of these two characters and their friendship, and they are really quite fleshed out and likeable... supporting characters, and there's a reason why people really did like them both, I think, because the actors do well, it's well written to kind of show their friendship, and, you know, I have said quite often, set pieces are great, who needs plot? But I did like this, I thought it was good, I really did.
It reminds me of a beat that will come up in Snakes on a Plane, where Keenan from Keenan and Kel has to land a plane, and he's been playing it on playing flight sims on the PlayStation.
Yes. Oh, I haven't watched that in ages. I need to watch that again. I think it's testament to the actors that make it, because it seems like whenever they're in it, they make the most of it, don't they? They really do.
We've got 5 scenes in this film, and we're going to chew it.
So we're talking about Chris Barrie, but we also should mention it's Noah Taylor, who's a very good actor as well, playing Bryce. He turns up in many different things. He's a tech support in Vanilla Sky, and as I understand it, played Hitler more than once.
For some reason I remember him, I probably said this last time as well, but I remember him most in Edge of Tomorrow, where he's the nerdy scientist sidekick guy.
Yes. That's the thing, if you... I can imagine it can get frustrating, but if you can, make your year's worth of money just by playing the nerdy sidekick guy for a few films, you'd just do it, wouldn't you?
I mean, I would definitely do it, but I hate my day job, so,
Yeah.
It can't be worse than that.
I'd do it, but I love my day job.
And you don't know anything about technology?
No, but I give it a go. Reverse the polarity of the neutron flow.
Well, he would just have to pretend that he knows anything about technology. He wouldn't actually have to know anything about technology.
Yeah, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. I did it.
I just see a director walking up to you, "Mark, can you just stop randomly banging your fingers on the keyboard and try and look like you're actually typing?" Oh dear.
I said I'd do it. I didn't say I'd do it well.
Now pay me.
The scene was perfect, but the thing was upside down. You were holding the thing upside down.
Mark, stop putting the mouse to your ear. Right. Meanwhile, we finally get to meet the Shadow Guardians. They're large monsters that seem to be made of smoke or wood or smoky wood.
Yeah.
They slaughter most of Rice's men. Lara makes a break for freedom with the orb and is chased by the Shadow Guardians. However, she's realised where the orb needs to be placed to find the Cradle of Life, which felt very video gamey. Was, run and avoid the monsters and drop the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
Well, it was very Gladiators, actually, which is fun because it's probably going to be Eunice Huthart that actually did that scene.
True.
She drops the orb and the Guardians disintegrate as she and Rice drop into the cradle below. Terry and Bryce, however, are in hot pursuit. Inside the cradle, Rice and Lara discover the box floating in a river of black acid. Rice dangles Lara over the acid to grab the box. I thought this was quite a fun bit. Just the way it looked when she said, "Oh, I can't possibly reach it," and he tears her jacket to give more reach. I thought that was quite a good sort of villainy thing to do.
The black acid looked awful, though.
Oh, it did, yeah. The bit that it burns her hair, but quite blatantly doesn't burn her hair, they just put like a steam thing over the top of her hair.
Yeah. Well, yes, I agree. It didn't look good. I think the fact that there's been some cool set pieces that has highlighted her long hair, like at the very start with the flip with the jet ski. I want that to be a thing, that there's been cool shit and you've noticed her hair being part of it. Is the establishment of, oh, she's burnt her hair.
Yeah.
Is this the only injury she sustains over the course of the film? Slightly singed hair.
She gets her leg cut at the beginning, and because I can't remember who it is, but she cuts somebody in a very similar place later on to say, now we're even.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's Shen during the terracotta fight, but that is pretty much it.
So it's only the second injury she... I suppose she might be a bit bruised after Hillary whacks her with a stick as well.
Yeah. That's all the way through the film, she's just complaining that her bum hurts because Hillary hit her with a kendo stick. Lara manages to escape, and they have what can only be described as a gravity-breaking scene as they race around the cradle. Now, I couldn't think of, the picture where all the staircases are like upside down and go round, and
Yeah.
what was that called? Because I wanted to say Geiger, but that it's not, is it?
I just think of Family Guy referring to it as crazy stairs.
Yes, it just reminded me of that for a bit. And I thought, same as the terracotta thing, I thought they could have played into this a bit more.
You mean Escher?
That's it, Escher.
Yeah. I've got one on the wall.
Oh, have you? Oh, lovely.
Cool.
That's not what the picture's called. It's like the artist is Escher.
Yeah.
But
The artist called Escher,
Yeah.
MC Escher.
as far as I know, it's just called Crazy Stairs.
It just reminded me of that bit. I thought they were going to have a bit more of it in sort of like shooting reflections and that kind of thing. But it is quite quick. It does seem like we're proper racing towards the end here.
It's one of those... Their kind of reach exceeded their grasp in terms of what they were trying to achieve visually with that, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it's called. Sorry,
No,
that's going
alright.
to bug me. Isn't it called something... Not polarity?
Crazy Stairs.
No. I'm going to look it up.
Okay. So, while this is...
Relativity!
Relativity.
There we go. Do you know why I said polarity? Because fucking reverse the polarity of the neutron flow.
I did wonder if that's where it come from.
Fuck's sake.
Hey.
What a boring title for a picture.
Yeah.
Are you saying Crazy Stairs is a better name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a better description of what you're looking at.
That's an undeniable truth.
You sounded like you broke Mark then.
No, I'm quite cross.
I'm also stealing it from Family Guy, so I can't even credit myself with the reference.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, while this is going on, Terry has managed to retrieve the box using a gun, which is kind of melting as he pulls the box out of the acid. Looking up, he sees this fight and notices that Rice has Lara. So he distracts Rice, which allows Lara to knock him into the acid. And then I put here, where interesting CG happens.
Do you remember Squishy Bog in Whizbit?
Yes.
Squishy Bog in Whizbit was better than this.
Yeah, it is a bit... I mean, it looks the most like a video game that the films look like is when Rice's body comes out of the... I didn't think he was going to come out, and then he bursts out. I do like the fact he just manages to touch the box before he just dissolved under the acid.
I just feel like this should have been practical effects. It could have been achieved something much... It could have achieved something much cooler, much more graphic and visceral with some practical effects. And this just looked lazy and almost... Have you seen Spawn? Where they're desperate to use nothing but CGI.
Yeah.
I think they've got some CGI budget for something that they should have done with practical effects and went a bit spawny on it.
Or they were running out of time and CGI was their only option.
Yeah. It reminded me a bit of... is it The Secret Life of Alex Mack? The Nickelodeon series where she can melt into a puddle of silver and slide under doors and things like that.
It also vaguely reminded me of The Mummy Returns when Imhotep falls into the pit and it has all like the lost souls or whatever and he's like riding around and you can tell there's just nothing going on there.
The Mummy Returns. The last Mummy movie.
My favourite of the two Mummy movies.
Terry and Lara kiss and they start to leave, but then Lara notices that Terry started to pick up the box. After arguing about the ramifications of taking the box, they begin to fight and Terry punches Lara. They argue more and Terry goes for his gun, only for Lara to tearfully shoot him first. I thought this went quite well, because you really couldn't see who'd shot first. And the pull out, and you saw that Lara had shot, and the fact she's crying, I thought was quite nice. In that we've built...
Well done.
Yeah.
Rather than nice.
Yeah, that we've built up that they did have this very intense relationship, and this is really... And that somebody did emotionally get to Lara Croft.
I think the problem with Jerry Butler's character, though, is you just don't ever really know what he's all about. So when he's like, I want that box for myself, and I'm just thinking, why?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that he said it was for them and they could both be rich.
She's already rich.
Yeah. But this is the thing that in the deleted scenes is, I think, the most interesting, is originally he doesn't take the box. He still dies, but it's because Rice shoots him. When he shoots up and distracts them, Rice shoots him back. And then when Lara realises what's happened, she turns around and he's sat leaning against the wall, dying. And they have a moment, and then he just passes away.
I guess they wanted the emotional conflict to close the film or close their relationship.
It's strange, though, because it's quite an oddly powerful little scene. And they do the thing where Jerry Butler's looking at her and he stops talking while she's talking. And then she realises that he's gone, but he's still looking at her, so she closes his eyes. And I thought that was a much nicer end for the character.
I'll check it out. I haven't seen the delete scenes. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that felt a much nicer end for it. Like, he gets his redemption after everyone said all the way through that he's a traitor and he'll betray her and all this, that and the other, rather than, yeah, no, you're right. I am.
Yeah, that's a good point. As dramatic as it was, he should have had a redemption arc, really.
Yeah. Ah, well.
Well, it wouldn't have been an arc, it would have been a redemption scene, I suppose.
Yeah. He still dies, but at least he would have died a bit more charmingly. Lara puts the box back into the Black Lake. For a brief moment, she does open it for a second, and you see the reflection in her eyes before she closes it again, and then it gets swallowed back up by the lake. So all is well, and she's put that back. Then she climbs out of the Cradle of Life, which presumably will seal itself back up again, because it's a bloody big hole.
You hope so.
She's rescued by Koza and the rest of the tribesmen. Lara returns the medallion to the tribe, who are very grateful. And then she discovers back at base camp, Hillary and Bryce are being painted and having their hair done. And Noah Taylor looks great with plaits. I thought it was almost like, oh, his character should have had them the whole time. And it fits the character as well. Chris Barrie looks great being painted up. However, when they realise that they're about to be married off, and they are grooms in a marriage ceremony, they run into the back of a jeep, and our heroes ride off into the sunset, which just for me brought back memories of Red Dwarf, of change of plan, leg it.
I thought exactly the same thing with the marriage of Lister and
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's nice that it's Chris Barrie. I think it would have been too much if it was Craig Charles in this.
I thought it was a nice little bit, because obviously we've just had quite a sad moment where Terry's turned out to be what everyone thought he was, and Lara's had to kill him. But then the other men in her life that she loves dearly are, relaxing and having their hair done.
They should have revealed that they're already married, though. They shouldn't have had the opportunity to run away from it. You know what just happened, right?
Yeah. I do like that Chris Barrie gets to fit in a little bit of Rimmer, because he's sitting there with the nostrils flared and the smile, and the hair is up, and it's sort of a little bit of Rimmer. I like as well that he gets to wear the vest, so he can show off that he does have a bit of guns going on that he got for this film. Yes, but they jump into the back of the jeep, and our heroes ride off into the sunset. Cue Korn.
Yes. Did my time by Korn. Good choice. Metal.
Yeah, and then if you carry on later into the credits, POD.
Yes.
So that was Tomb Raider 2, Lara Croft, The Cradle of Life. We'll start with you, Craig. Craig, what did you think of the film?
Well, like I said earlier, I think it's probably on a par with the first one, in that I watched them a while ago, a couple of weeks ago for this one probably, and then more weeks ago for the other one, and I've largely forgotten about both of them. I was sort of remembering as you were narrating as we were going through, but it's fine. It stands out from modern action fare in that they actually go to locations and film in them, whereas you don't get that an awful lot these days. So yeah, it's fine. Angelina Jolie was a great Lara Croft. I wish we'd had at least another one, because I quite like the standalone adventure format thing, as in the only continuity is Lara Croft and the other two characters, I guess. But yeah, it's fine. It's inoffensive.
Mark?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I guess I'm easily pleased with action films. I go in just wanting what I want from them, which is something that I almost always get. But this is a fun one, and yeah, I agree with what Craig says. The scenes that are shot on location are great, but it's also fun to see Chris Barrie as a badass, but a bit campy as well. It's nice to see him play someone that isn't just unlikable as well. The character's very likable. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm glad we did it, and I think I'm going to agree with Craig. I would have definitely watched Lara Croft 3, Cradle of Filth, or whatever they were going to call it.
We're going to crank it up a bit, turn it into a 18 or 15, Cradle of Filth, Lara Croft 3.
The search for Hillary, or something like that.
Something I was thinking about, something we mentioned on another episode the other day, was there's a thing with Chris Barrie where you're talking about, you're like, if I'm one of those actors who you put the costume on and that does help. I don't think he actually has the costume here. I think he has to be himself more. And I think that really, it does show that he's not just Britus or he's not just Rimmer. He can play a charming butler. But
well, I guess the costume, the suit he would wear to be a butler would be inspirational, perhaps.
Yeah, but that was only really important in the first film. I don't think we needed it in the second film because we'd established who he was.
Yeah.
So, that was Tomb Raider 2, Lara Croft, The Cradle of Life. All that's left to do now is to sign off. Craig, where can people find you on the internet?
Sure. Well, mainly on Kneel Before Blog, so that's kneelbeforeblog.co.uk. On there I do reviews of, well, at the moment nothing, because most of the TV, in fact all the TV I watch is finished, so I'm not covering anything at the moment, but I review films. There's an attached podcast called Kneel Before Pod, where I'm getting through the backlog ever so slowly of editing that I need to do, so there's plenty to come on the feed pretty soon. On We Made This, I can be found over We Are Starfleet, which is also on hiatus because, well, Star Trek Strange New Worlds is currently off the air until, God knows, 2 years it could be. Who knows? Depends on how the strike goes. And personally, since I'm on a We Made This show, I have to say that on Twitter I can be found under Nemesis4909, which originally was a Resident Evil reference that later became also a Star Trek reference, relevant for a video game podcast.
Oh, excellent. Mark?
So, you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at MarkAdamsHC. And I also do a podcast about the Chucky and Child's Play franchise. We are looking at some television episodes that featured dolls or dummies, and my guests on those episodes are none other than Kurt and Matt from Shipwrecked and Comatose. So if you want to hear them talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel when it comes to Matt, and X-Files when it comes to Kurt, they're going to be guesting for the entire month of October. So yeah, 3 episodes of Chucky Vision are going to be featuring our lovely hosts from Shipwrecked and Comatose next month.
And you can find me at allmylinks.com/Mr. Carl. I'm not up to much at the moment, but I am always, of course, hanging around on Shipwrecked and Comatose, whether they like it or not. So, thank you very much to my guests. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and do leave a review. And until next time,
Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast, was created and produced by Mark Adams and Kurt North. You can find us on Twitter at Red Dwarf Pod, and we are part of the We Made This Podcast network.
Hello, and this is Chucky Vision on the We Made This network, the podcast for all things Chucky. I'm Dev Elson.
And I'm Mark Adams. We're two queer podcasters who love bloody horror,
Camp comedy, gay romance,
and referencing icons like Freddy, Jason, and Britney.
The Chucky films and new TV show deliver all of that, and there is still so much more to cover.
So if you want to play, find Chucky Vision on Twitter at Chucky Vision and on all good podcast providers.
And yes, the title is a Chuckle Vision pun.
Because why not?